Community through business, building relationships, and building Waterloo Region. 570 News proudly presents Business to Business. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to another edition of Business to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. And welcoming back my partners in business, Ian McLean, the president of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce, Greg DeRocher, president of the Cambridge Chamber. And we've got a great show lined up today. A guy from Portland, Oregon is coming up, a social media expert, Frank J. Kenny. Tell us a bit about him before we chat with him later. Why did you go to Portland, Oregon for this guest?
Well, I didn't go to Portland, Oregon. He came here.
Why did you reach out to Portland? He came here. I know you didn't travel there, but how did you end up meeting this guy?
I met Frank through my connections with the American Chamber of Commerce executives. He's been on the social media scene with Chambers of Commerce for a number of years now, and I was always interested in how his flavor would be with respects to social media, because it's not about, from his perspective, technology. Technology is out of the equation. Social media is easy to use, easy to sign up for. And I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation with him, because he talks about real strategies around why business should be engaged.
That's one of the things that last year with our Manulife education series, we had the whole series was on social media, because everyone knows they need to do it. Our members in KW and yours in Cambridge know that they have to take advantage of it. But unless you are familiar with it, you think it's more complicated than it is. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he simplifies it and can make it more understandable for everyone in business.
We hear all the time about how important it is, how essential it is to get with the program. How essential is social media to business now?
Vital. And Frank will, I'm sure, talk about that. It's critically important that social media get on there, because that's where their customers are. Well, and not necessarily all their customers are on Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever. It's about being able to go to that social media platform where your customers are.
You know, one of the things we found when we did our website, we did a new website about 18 months ago, is people are using are wanting to get their information on multiple different platforms or levels, right? So some people still like a phone call, some people still like a letter, some email. Others use social media almost exclusively. So for us as a membership-based organization, we have to communicate on all those different platforms.
I remember not too long ago when the internet first came on the scene, and people were saying, you got to get with this internet thing. And, it's a great way to advertise your product and sell your product. Yeah. And it was like considered a fad at the time. There were people that were naysayers about the internet. I'm not going to do that. Online, what does that mean? Well,
and that's the thing. I mean, Twitter and Facebook are just two of them, but there's all kinds of other things that are coming up and coming, and it'll be interesting to hear if gives you any sort of a look at. Okay, yeah, it's important to be on Twitter now and Facebook, but here are the things that you got to start looking for down the road, because it's changing so fast. Whether it's there's Pinterest and all these other new technology.
Pinterest.
So I don't even know what it is,
guys. I can't recall now. Have we spoken since you had that big business expo? Have we chatted since then, or
no?
We talked prior to it.
No,
right?
It was just
how'd that go, guys? How was it?
It was outstanding. It was great. Sessions we had, learning sessions on technology enhancements, and I was a little bit concerned about that, because they were voluntary attendance and they were set up in kind of the corner
I should just
of the room,
preface in case people don't know what we're talking about. It's the annual business expo where the two chambers combined.
And
the third one, and Guelph as well. And you combined for this annual event, the Business Expo, and it was at Bingaman's last week.
Bingaman's, and we always have, I think we had 165 exhibitors this year, and we know our attendance was up significantly from last year. And what I found interesting was, we were trying something new, because we always try and marry together networking, business exposure for our businesses, and education. And so having these four speakers rotate through a 2-hour segment every half hour, we'd have an information session. They were really well attended.
Oh, yeah.
And we can do better. We need to, for next year, we'll tweak it to make sure the sound's better and that sort of stuff. But it was really very useful, and we got a lot of good feedback.
You can go on CambridgeChamber.com, and we've got a little video segment that was shot there. Actually, we got Ian McLean filling his face with food that was there.
Yeah, he caught me off guard.
Notwithstanding filling his face
How
with
do you
food,
keep-
we are dealing with the
He is the
leaner. No, there is a leaner Ian McLean.
That's right.
You
Leaner
are.
and meaner.
There is.
You're wasting away to nothing.
However, he had a mouthful of buttered chicken.
It was very good though. But you were the worst cameraman that Cambridge
Chambers ever
had.
What are you talking about?
Awful.
It was. Do you notice how steady it is? It's phenomenal.
Hey, are you guys excited now? More, I know you've always been excited and big supporters, and clearly in Research and Motions Corner. But now that they finally set a date to launch this great new product, the BB10, January 30th. What do you make of that? I mean, they're distinguishing between the launch date and the release date. I guess the launch date, January 30th, is going to be sort of the grand unveiling. They're going to demonstrate it and actually set it up and get it going, and then it's going to come to market. They haven't set a date. They're going to announce that on the 30th, but we're hearing sometime in February. That's speculation.
Yeah, I think I think the January 30th is an important date for them. They're going to do their launch. I think that what they've actually said is it will come on market immediately, which is the touch version. I think the one that's coming in February will be the full QWERTY version.
Ian McLean version will be coming a little later.
Some of us need the QWERTY.
This is significant. They finally have laid to rest all the speculation.
Yep.
We're doing it on this date.
Well,
and they took their time, and I think they made that was a good decision.
Well, I was at We Day, which RIM sponsored on Wednesday, and that was a fabulous event. We should talk about some other time. But
yeah, my daughter was there. By the way,
it was a fantastic
just put a plug
day
in for Lucy Pelletier.
When we were down.
Anyway, I digress.
So
your daughters are in the studio, by the way. Want to say hi to Abby and Hannah McLean.
Yeah,
welcome.
They're here watching today.
Yeah. Eating. Can I put a plug in for McDonald's?
Yeah, you can put a plug in for McDonald's.
eating the McNuggets. Your daddy is so cool. He bought you McNuggets.
Yes, absolutely.
And brought him to the
But
studio.
the BB10 they had it downstairs, and I had the opportunity to look at it for 2 or 3 minutes, and it looks absolutely amazing. So they took a picture. I actually had a picture of my daughter and a couple other kids and said, "Close your eyes." And they took this, snapped the picture. And there's some of this technology is available in other things, but he clicked on the picture and opened all their eyes in real time to make a perfect picture.
Perfect picture.
But this was he was scrolling right from his email, then just flipped his finger, took a picture, did all this stuff very seamlessly. And I think that's what they're talking about when they're saying a multitask computing platform in mobile computing. So it looks really, really sweet, and it's fast.
It's slightly bigger. It's slightly bigger than the Bold and the Torch.
Not much.
It kind of looks more like it's got the dimensions, I would say, of an iPhone.
Yeah, it is a little bigger, but not that it's unmanageable.
Although
really exciting
screen, the Torch Touch is a bigger screen than the iPhone right now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I think it's probably more resembling.
Guys, what do you make of this? All this, there have been some naysayers who have said, they missed the Christmas launch, yada, yada, yada. And we spoke, who was it I spoke with last week? An analyst talking about, it might have been Carmi Levy, who was on the Gary Doyle show. And he said, generally, people don't buy smartphones as Christmas gifts.
And you know what's more important?
Because it comes with a whole plan and everything. They buy them for themselves. So he said he's not the least bit concerned that they launched it after Christmas. It's not going to make a difference.
Far more important for them is that, they've taken the time to get it right and to come to market when it's ready. I mean, they came with the playbook a little premature. Had to do now. It's much better with the patches, but I think they said we are going to get this right before we go to market, and I think it's really exciting.
It's kind of like you don't buy your wife a toaster for Christmas. Everybody uses this equipment.
Maybe
now,
that's where I went wrong, Greg.
It's not.
Sounds like a guy from experience.
And
was that last one?
Even a 4 slicer? Come on.
It's not that kind of a product anymore. It used to be, but now it's an essential component that everybody has to have. So it's not a device that's probably a Christmas gift. Maybe for younger people it is. For parents to buy them that, but I don't think the broader community, certainly in a business community setting, you want to make sure it's right before you get it.
And I think some of the stuff that they're talking about of having basically a firewall inside so that you can separate your personal applications from your business applications and things like that are sort of marrying the best parts of what RIM has, which is that security piece and being able to be sort of the business use, but it looks and feels a lot more like more of a consumer product.
It's going to be big. It's going to be big.
I know you guys wanted to touch on the Liberal leadership campaign. Are you talking You want to go provincial? Or are you talking
provincial?
federal?
Oh,
Provincial,
yeah, for
okay.
sure. That's the one that's probably more important right now. and
How
that's
many
one-
candidates are there now? 15?
No, I think there's 6 or 7.
Or maybe I'm thinking of the federal.
But there's some
interesting candidates.
There is some really interesting. Gerard Kennedy, for one, who's I think he's taken his last pitch. This could be strike 3. He's run for 2.
When McGuinty resigned, that was the first name I thought of, and I'm not alone in that. Was Gerard Kennedy.
A lot of people have. A lot of people thought of him for the federal leadership.
You know who's
as well.
got, and I don't know anything about him. And strictly from you take a at first glance, just his physical appearance. This guy's got some kind of charm or charisma or something going on. Is Hoskins? This guy could be interesting.
He's interesting too. Although
I mean, he's barely known outside the GTA.
But yeah, exactly.
I think that the reality is these are inside the family sort of exercises, right? So I think Pupatello and Glenn Murray and Charles Sousa are sort of more inside. And Wynn's an interesting candidate too, and she clearly will be the one that's going to be more aggressive in softening.
I think we'll see Wynn and
education.
Kennedy kind of on the same side of the page. And I think what's really interesting from my perspective and maybe our world, being in the chamber world, is Charles Sousa's background. He's with RBC in the private sector, but he's also been a member of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. He was a director on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. He was a member of the Toronto Board of Trade. And in 2003, he was a Canadian rep on the International Chamber of Commerce. This is kind of interesting from our perspective.
Have you heard him before speak? Have you been?
I haven't heard him speak, but I think Ian,
I met with him probably last May. He came in, and he's Minister of Labor, or was until he resigned. And it was around the time, must have been just before we were going to the Ontario Chamber of Commerce with our resolution on our arbitration and saying that needs to be fixed. So he came to our chamber and met with myself and a few people. Very, very articulate, very bright guy. But I think one of the challenges that Hoskins and Sousa will face is they're just not as well known even inside the whole thing. But they
can use this opportunity to get some face time and I don't think there's a runaway favorite yet. I mean,
you wonder too how popular the well-knowns are going to be, because they'll be closely connected with some of the problems around the provincial government's issues and the prorogation and the gas plant issue. Quite frankly, I just said to Ian before we went on, I'm not sure who would want to jump into that race anyway, because it could spell the end of
the greatest premier we never had.
Yes.
I would love to see him jump sides and get back in the game. John Tory. Yeah. If John Tory decided, I mean, he's got too much going on right now for him, and I don't think he'd ever switch parties, or his allegiance. But there's a guy that I think would have deserved an opportunity.
Well, but this is going to be interesting because anything can happen. If you look at the polls right now, you'd say whoever is elected the Liberal leader in the province of Ontario is a bit of a poison chalice, because they're not from the looks of it right, not likely to win. But things can change in leadership races, and anything can happen in politics. We saw that the Tories have lost the last 2 elections when they were supposed to win, so things can happen. And what I think is important for business, though, is that as we go, what we're starting to talk about is how do we try and engage these leadership candidates to get our agenda. Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is where we the Ontario Chamber and ourselves sort of talking about the things that are important for business to be.
I think I may have asked you this over the last couple of elections. I think we've been on, since the last federal. Do you, as a chamber, and your Ontario counterparts and your national counterparts endorse? Would you come out publicly and endorse a particular candidate in this instance? Would you endorse Sousa or anybody else for that matter?
We never. I mean, I don't think our chamber has never done that, because we ask questions. And we ask of those of all the candidates, but we have a track record, and I think Greg would attest to this. We work with whomever's elected locally, and we have a broader I would describe it as it's a nonpartisan agenda. Yeah. It's not a political agenda.
We know from your debates that you sponsor so effectively that you're very neutral on that. And you don't take sides. So I'm just wondering if you would ever, is it ever a policy, I think a practice to endorse a particular candidate?
It's not a practice to. I don't know that we actually have a resolution saying we would never do that, but it's just not something we've done, and it's not something as that I would recommend to our board.
I think you have to be very, very careful, especially when it crosses party lines. I think, maybe where there isn't a party affiliation, it might be more appropriate, but not certainly not in a party.
Guys, let's bring on our first guest after the break. And again, it's we're going to go to Mr. Kenny, are we?
Yes, from Portland, Oregon. It's at 9 o'clock or so out there, but and I'm sure it's warmer.
All right, we're going to come back with our first guest. Was it Jeff Kenny? No, Jason. What?
Frank
Kenny. Jason
Frank,
Kenny.
He's probably listening right now.
I'm talking about the federal immigration minister. I got politics on the brain.
We switch from politics to social
Frank
media.
J. Kenny, social media expert from Portland, Oregon, will join us next. You are listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Allstream. Call in with your questions at star 570 570 2545 or 1-800-570-5715. Not just what you know, it's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News, powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant, allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
Welcome back to Business. Hey, we've got a brand new email address, too. If you want to join the conversation, if you have an idea for a future show, a business story you'd like to bring to light, you can email us at businesstobusiness@570news.com, right? It's not just businesstobusiness.com. It's businesstobusiness@570news.com. Or is it? No, wait a minute. I think I've just forgotten. I should just test it out right now.
It's business to business at 570news.com.
Right. Or we have another one, biz to biz.
Yes.
At 570news.com. BIZ2TO biz. Biz to biz. If it's easier for you to remember.
Yeah.
So business to
we're gonna
business.
have to do a show on that and then test people afterwards.
Business to business at 570news.com or biz to biz at 570news.com. Okay, we've got a little bit of an issue with connecting with Frank J. Kenny from Portland, Oregon. We're going to try. He says we're in communication, but we just can't get him on the line just yet. So let's welcome back to the program a previous interview with a guy from Vicamus, Mr. Pisarczyk, to talk about, and they're connected to Allstream, right?
Yes, they are.
So let's join that conversation. He's in conversation now with Greg DeRocher.
We've got Jonathan Pisarczyk from Vicamus on the line with us to talk a little bit about Allstream, but what's maybe a little bit different is, Jonathan, you're not an Allstream employee, but rather you're a customer. So tell us a little bit, first of all, about what Vicamus does.
Well, first off, we basically started the automotive group, and we spun off a new IT services company to basically kind of help out other automotive groups or dealerships with IT or technology services. Mm-hmm. We basically had 7 locations, different dealerships between London and Toronto. Mm-hmm. And one of the big problems we had was a lot of downtime between the different sites. We had multiple companies supporting our network. We had multiple phone systems, and we wanted a call center.
Mm-hmm. So obviously what was driving you crazy was, sometimes the lack of connectivity between systems because, they don't necessarily match up. So what, from the main point of pain for you from a technical infrastructure perspective, what was really driving you crazy?
Well, one of the biggest problems we had was downtime. So if we're the central site where our servers are, if we went down, it made all the other locations unproductive. Mm-hmm. And, just measuring the amount of money we're losing when we can't print out invoices and everything else, it's crazy. So the other issue we had, we were dealing with multiple vendors, so everyone was playing the finger-pointing game, said, oh, it's not our problem, it's the other guy's problem, right? So that was one of the other issues. And then communication between locations, it was always a challenge for whether it was the CFO just trying to get through to one of the controllers or someone getting through and you have to call reception, then call through from reception, they transfer the call, and then basically having a seamless system for a call center to be able to transfer calls back down to one of the locations.
I think that's one of the things that we hear oftentimes, especially with companies who have multiple locations. Being able to seamlessly be able to connect from even a simple communication point is so. What really made you look at Allstream as opposed to everyone else?
Well, one of the big things when we started the process of evaluating vendors to go down the whole route of one network and one provider. One of the things that Allstream they stood out was because they had local salespeople, whether it was in London or Toronto, they could actually come and meet with us. They had it was like a one-stop shop for the solution for our entire network, and they had the technical knowledge. Like the sales guy can come, plus a technical person that can answer some more of the technical questions. So that was a big difference we found from some of the other companies. And the other unique offering they had was the SIP trunking, and nobody really had that about in Canada 3 years ago. That I guess like Bell or Primus, they weren't really quite there yet. So that was one of the reasons we stuck with Allstream.
So give our listeners a little bit of information on what the metrics were that were achieved, like your cost savings and increase in productivity.
Well, we've basically had no downtime for the last 3 years at where the servers are located. We basically put them into a SunGuard data center that's partner with Allstream. I'll give you an example with SIP trunking. I believe one of your last topics was on SIP trunking.
Yes, it was.
We had, I guess, between all the different locations, we had about 150 traditional phone lines or PRIs, right? And the approximate cost per line is, say, about $30, right? And so over a year, it was about $54,000, okay? And so we've scaled back to 60 SIP trunk lines now instead of 150, and they're about $10 per line. So now our cost is about $7,200 per year just in local access.
Wow.
And then, not to mention that, when we're calling between London and Toronto, we don't pay any long distance now because it's an internal call, right, with the one phone system. So
tens of thousands of dollars of savings.
And then, the downtime we can't even really measure because, when we'd go down, it basically made all employees unproductive. So, I can't even really put a dollar figure on that. But like I said, the only times we've had any issues at some of our sites is usually our fault because, one example is water was leaking through the roof and poured onto all of our equipment, and, that's really out of Allstream's control at that point. But otherwise, we've, touch wood, had no issues. So it's been great.
So how do you think now this Allstream solution is going to help you grow your business?
Well, it's saving us money. It's increased our uptime. So, our employees are going to be more satisfied, or they're going to have less headaches. So when they're dealing with customers, they're going to hopefully be able to deal with the customers faster and get things done quicker. Having the central phone system has just been, it's really saved a lot of time, even from, simple things for a used car manager to call another used car manager. He doesn't have to call through to reception. He can direct dial through the company directory. Having our call center, we did have it in Toronto, but we've recently moved it to London. That's made a huge difference. The call center can book oil changes or certain, basic things. And then if the customer needs to still talk to the service manager, we can live transfer the call. We don't have to say, we'll call this number. We can do a warm transfer. We can transfer it right away. And that makes a huge difference.
Jonathan, Glenn Pelletier here. For those business people that might be listening right now, can you give us a sense of what you do as a company at Vitrumus and in relation with Allstream?
Yes. Basically, what Vitrumus does is we're a technology service provider. So the three main things we've been focusing on is kind of IT support as well as call center support. So, if another dealership really needs some help answering the phones, because that's one of the biggest problems in the industry I see, we have a staff of trained people in the call center that can answer those calls. And then we also do some custom development. We're working on some websites tailored for automotive dealerships as well. So we're going to be rolling those out hopefully by the end of the year for the Phaeton Group.
So then I guess from my perspective, you would say Allstream's solution was certainly a huge monetary benefit and productivity benefit to Vitrumus.
Oh, yes.
Very good. Thank you very much, great. Jonathan. That was terrific. And, I think from our perspective, And I know from Allstream's perspective, they certainly appreciate a customer of theirs coming on and talking about the benefits of their program. So thanks very much for joining us today.
You know what, Jonathan, and I echo that. It's always a delight to talk to people whose business is thriving courtesy of Allstream. Again, if there's business people listening right now who may want to get in touch with you to ask you about, your experience with Allstream,
yes.
Is there a way they can reach you? Do you have a website?
Yep.
Or?
Yeah. You can go to www.vitchimus.com, and it's spelled VICIMUS.com, or you can call us. It's 519-472-6334, or the other way by email. It's just info@vitchimus.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you, guys.
That was Jonathan Pizarchik of Vitchimus, and
interesting. It's great. Isn't it great to have like a customer on as opposed to the company? I think it's wonderful to have the technology experts from Allstream to join us, but it's really good to hear a positive experience from the customer side as well.
All right. You are listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570.
All right.
We're coming back with more right after this.
Yes, we are. Glenn, thank you very much. Yes, we are coming back. This is exciting. We're going to get right to it. Frank J. Kenny, speaker, author, consultant, social media expert from Portland, Oregon. His website, Frank J. Kenny. That's Kenny with one E, Kenny, frankjkenny.com. Don't miss this interview. It's coming up next. We're going to chat with Frank J. Kenny as Business to Business, powered by Allstream, continues.
Business to Business, powered by Allstream. A presentation of 570 News. Watch the live video webcast at 570news.com. We'll return with more Business to Business. What you know. It's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com.
All right,
here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
I will get that thing memorized.
You're just too excited to get Frank Kenny.
I want to get Frank on. Take it away, gentlemen. Frank J. Kenny, a speaker, author, consultant. You had the opportunity of connecting with him.
Yeah,
Greg,
I hung out with him actually
Let's get
for
right
a week.
to it.
I hung out with him for a week. We had him at the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, came down and did a learning session for a couple of hours, introduced people to what they should know about social media. And then Frank and I had the opportunity to go to Barrie, where there was a CEO conference going on. But Frank, how's the weather out west?
Not too bad. Rainy on the West Coast, as you would expect.
Are you tweeting that out this morning? Are you saying how dull and dreary it is out there?
No, I always stay positive. You got to keep to the light.
Frank, you and I had a long conversations about the importance of business being engaged, and especially small business being engaged. Off the top, what's the overriding message on how important it is for business to be engaged and be on social media, interacting with their client base?
Well, I think the major message is we're going through a revolution. Just like maybe in the 20th century, radio came about and TV came about, and those were revolutionary on how businesses got awareness in the public and engaged with their customers. But you had then years and years and years, 10, 15, 20 years to really understand the technology and see where things were going, and the pace of life was a little slower. Today, social media is moving at such a rocket pace and transforming, revolutionizing how companies, small businesses and large businesses, how companies engage with their customers and prospects. And heck, if you sit on the sidelines too long on this, you're going to be left so far behind you'll never catch up.
And that's going to beat you up from a business perspective. You just absolutely have to be there.
Well, it was, where if people did not have some kind of a system to maintain their customer base, the name, phone number of their customers, things of that nature, it was really not a big deal. That was the private business of the business. It's all right. So they're not sophisticated. They don't have a customer relationship management system. No big deal. The customers really didn't know that. But today, if a customer wants to integrate or interact with the business, and they post out on Facebook saying, I got a question about your service, or they post out on Twitter that, I'm really disappointed in the service we've gotten, they expect engagement. They want a response. And if the company isn't there, not only is that one customer disappointed, other people see that. So it's public now if you're choosing not to participate. It's a big deal for business.
So Frank, the problem is, you just mentioned, how do I know, as a business person, how do I know where my customers are?
Well, with social media, it's a lot easier. This is such a blessing to, especially small businesses, because small businesses are more relationship-based with their customers. They're not just random people; they're friends and family, generally people from the community. It's truly relationship-based. And nowadays, with tools that you can use, you can do a search for the name of your business, the name of the principals of the business, the name of the city, the name of your industry with the city, and you can start just listening to the comments having to do with the restaurants. Let's say you're a restaurateur in a city. Well, you start following what people are saying about your restaurant and what they're saying about your the competitive restaurants, and see if there's ideas out there about they're saying that what we need is a restaurant that does so-and-so. And all of a sudden, now that's market intelligence that you used to have to hire a firm for. But now, if you just use like some free tools here, I'll throw out a couple names. Socialmention.com is a free service. You type in whatever you want to search, and it will come back with anybody that's mentioned those names, that search term on Facebook and Twitter and all sorts of different places. And all of a sudden, you can start putting together information that'll help you run your business smarter. And another service is Google Alerts, and both of these are entirely free, but you just type in whatever you want to search for, and in the morning you'll get an email from Google with any mentions of your business, your industry, your community, whatever you wanted to search for. And then when you see those, then you can engage with the person that made the comment. And, if there was a glowing comment, you thank them and appreciate them. And that gives them warm fuzzies so that then they go tell their friends that, they really care about me as a person. And then if they were unhappy with the service, because we can't please everybody, well, all of a sudden you're trying to fix it. And you turn a negative into a huge positive.
You're in conversation. We're in conversation with Frank J. Kenny, frankjkenny.com. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's a social media expert. He's written a book called The 7 Secret Laws of Society, Social Media Essentials. It's a great read. You can check it out and go to his website to find out more about the book, The 7 Secret Laws of Society, Social Media Essentials, and it's all at frankjkenny.com. Ian?
Frank, I guess one of the things when we were doing our getting more engaged at the chamber ourselves with a new website, a new social media, and we started using Twitter and Facebook. What I found a little intimidating, because I'm certainly not an expert on these things when we were going through this, is how to get started. So, I mean, you've got some great things on how to search what people are saying about you, but many of our small businesses, 70% of our businesses have 20 employees or less. So most of them it's the business owner themselves having to manage the social media. So in terms of getting started, if you're not doing much right now, what would be the two or one or two or three platforms that you use to get started as a small business, to take advantage of some of these things that you were talking about, to engage your customer and to have a better conversation with potential customers?
Well, what I tell my clients here is, first, you cannot wait for everything to be perfect, for you to have this absolute plan that you're going to stick with. If you expect to go into this with a complete understanding and a complete plan and process, that's just not realistic. The first step is just to get in there and get an account established with your name and start doing some posts, start engaging, start interacting with people. So the very first step is just do it. You got to take that first step and not wait till everything's perfect. The second step would be start thinking about where your customer is. Who is your customer? If your customer is local, let's say that you're a plumbing supplier, a plumbing company in a town, your customers are going to be the local people in that town. And to reach local people in your own community, well, that's Facebook. That's the soccer moms are on Facebook. The business owners are on Facebook. Just about everybody, 95% of people in a local town are probably on social media, and a lot of them are on Facebook. So that's where you want to be. On the other hand, if you're a business-to-business and your customers are Fortune 500 companies, well, they're not going to be on your local Facebook. You're not going to have Facebook friends with their CEOs. but you will find them on LinkedIn. So you need to think about where your customer is and how I'm going to engage them. And if you have absolutely no clue on this, you probably need to talk to somebody that can get you started in the right direction. But again, it comes back to don't wait till you got it all figured out. Get in there and start kicking the tires and playing with it, and you will learn as you go.
So Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn seem to be the three that you've just mentioned as a starting point for most business. Those are the three to start thinking about in terms of getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everybody should have a LinkedIn profile because that's your online resume. If somebody searches your name, let's say before I hire a local plumber, I very well might go to Google and type in the name of that plumber and just see to see what comes up. Make sure there's not a bunch of negative reviews or anything. And chances are that the very first thing that will come up is that plumber's LinkedIn profile. So all small business people, anybody that's entrepreneurial at all, needs a LinkedIn profile. They probably, if their customers are local, they also need to be on Facebook. They need to be on Facebook personally, and they need a Facebook fan page for their business. And then they should probably be on Twitter. What you don't want to do with any of these is start them and then walk away from it and ignore it because that looks really bad. So I wouldn't launch all three of these on the same day. But when you're really rolling, chances are you're going to have a well-established LinkedIn account, your daily activity on Facebook, both personally and as the business, and then daily activity on Twitter.
Now, Frank, what's the message? Everybody, we see a lot of that on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Joe's Coffee Shop, I've got the best coffee in town. Come on down and have a cup. What's really the message business should be, and how should business be using it to reach their target audience?
I think, matter of fact, I'm positive of it, is that it comes down to telling the business's story. What does the business stand for? We can get a cup of coffee anywhere. Joe at Joe's Coffee Shop is going to say, of course, that he has the best coffee. But he has a conflict of interest there, so we're going to discount what the owner of the store says. But if Joe is instead telling the story of what that coffee shop stands for, do they stand for supporting the community and they support Little League and all these other community groups? Is that their story? Or is it that they're using organic coffees in a very green kind of way? And is that their story, that they're very environmentally conscious? It's things like that story of the business, that differentiates the business and makes the customer, the target market, the person in the target market sit up in their chair and say, oh, this is for me, because this meets my worldview. This validates me and what I find important. Right. And that's what breaks through
Frank,
the clutter.
you know what? We need to get you back on our next show to continue this conversation. There's just so much more to talk about. I want to encourage people to go to your website, Frank J. Kenny, that's Kenny, frankjkenny.com. And I encourage you to check out his ebook, The 7 Secret Laws of Society, the importance and significance of social media in this particular economy that we're living and working in. Frank, thank you so much for your time, and we will definitely chat again.
Hey, my pleasure.
All right, we're going to come back with more. You were listening to Business, powered by Allstream on 570 News.
We'll be right back with more Business to Business, powered by Allstream. Call in with your questions at star 570, 570-2545, or 1-800-570-5715. Just what you know. It's who you know. Connecting community through business. This is Business to Business on 570 News. Powered by Allstream. All local, all relevant. Allstream.com. Here's your host, Glenn Pelletier.
And I'm joined by Abby McLean. do you prefer Abby or Abigail?
Abby.
Yeah. Abby McLean, Ian's youngest daughter, and his other daughter is here as well. Hannah McLean, welcome to the show. This segment of Business to Business is brought to you by Save On Energy, offered by your local electric utilities. And we just want to say that we're being webcast, which means you're on the internet right now. People are watching you right now, all over Kitchener-Waterloo. You're being watched on the internet, and so isn't she cute? She's adorable. She got her mother's looks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ian, there's no question.
Thank God
about
for
that.
small mercies.
We talked earlier about the great success of your business expo at a joint effort of the KW Chamber, the Cambridge Chamber, and the Guelph Chamber of Commerce. And you guys are there's always so much going on. Tell us what you've got in the offing going forward.
Well, for the Greater KW Chamber, we've got on Tuesday we have our third in a series of 4 that Greg Viner is doing called Survive and Thrive, and it's how to build teams and create your grow your success in your own business. And we did our series last year. It was a tremendous success. We capped out on the first 2. There's a few spots available. There's one on November 20th and 27th, and then on Wednesday we're very fortunate to have Elizabeth Whitmer do a network breakfast series, and she's going to be talking about life after politics, and I'm sure she'll get some questions about WSIB because that's becoming a real business issue as well. So we're very excited about those 2 things this week.
And over at the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce, we have I don't know why staff did this, but it's an incredibly busy month. On Wednesday, we've got Rob Leone, our member of provincial legislature, coming to do his annual address to the chamber. And we've got Business After Hours in December on December 3rd. We also have our Mayor's Breakfast. And our Mayor's Breakfast is a little bit different than most. Our mayor, Doug Craig, will host actually 2 other mayors. The mayor of Milton is coming to share what's going on in Milton and area. And as well, the mayor of Burlington is coming. And they'll each have a few moments to talk about what's happening in their particular jurisdictions. And, of course, our mayor will come up and say, we're better and we do more. And then what was just scheduled, this is very interesting, December the 11th, we have breakfast with the Honorable Chris Bentley, Minister of Energy, who, as we all know, has been highlighted in the news of recent, especially around the prorogation in the gas plant debacle. So it's quite interesting that his office called Cambridge Chamber of Commerce and asked to come, since I think it was our member of the provincial legislature that put the contempt motion against him.
Yeah, Mr. Leone.
That will be kind of interesting. So I'm not quite sure what the target of the breakfast is going to be, but I'm sure some people will put a target on it.
Bentley, one of the few ministers who hasn't resigned to run for the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's getting to be a long list. One issue that came up last week, and I think we're just before we come out, and I guess it was a week ago Friday at 5 o'clock, the Electoral Commission announced that they had a new proposal in terms of how they were going to redistribution that comes out of the census, the local ridings.
Right.
And one of the things that I find particularly troubling about this, we weren't getting terribly involved about the specifics, but there was no indication that they were going to try and break up the region, which is effectively what is being proposed now in terms of where the federal ridings would go. And I know there's, Greg and I have talked about this, and there's different viewpoints, but we've worked really hard as a region, regardless of your position on amalgamation or having come together in the first place.
We may need Glenn in between us on this.
Well, but I think what's fair is there are things like CTT and the tourism board and all the things that we do with regional council to try and bring the 4 townships and the 3 cities together. And what's effectively happening is the rural ridings or townships are being shipped off to other federal jurisdictions, or ridings. And I think this is something that's really important. And the reason I think it should be important to business listeners is we've developed and are pretty effective at communicating with our elected officials, both provincially and federally. And I think that this is not welcome.
Well, initially, and how significant is this? Initially, we were poised to get an extra riding based on our population.
Yeah.
And like you say, just very recently now, Kitchener-Conestoga riding is on the chopping block. We're not going to get that extra riding. It's going to go to the Milton area. How important is that?
We essentially are getting an additional representative that will touch corners of the regional municipality of Waterloo, and I guess to some degree I understand. I just am not that worried about it from a business perspective. Thankfully, municipal jurisdictions don't really identify the business jurisdictions, and we can talk about that and debate that to the end of time, whether or not we've created this brand around the region of Waterloo. But all you have to do is look at Silicon Valley with hundreds of municipal jurisdictions and all kinds of different lines and I'm sure political boundaries that go within that jurisdiction. So I think while I'm sitting kind of on the top of the fence right now, saying, well, I'm not sure how important this really is to business. I think if we've got an opportunity to tie together a relationship with another government official, whether it be provincial or federal, that may be.
I couldn't disagree more. I mean, I really got to say, we've been very effective with federal development agencies.
We were supposed to get a fifth riding. We're not getting it now.
No, I think that's true. I mean, but I'm less concerned about getting another riding than having part of this region taken out and put in other ridings. So, Wilmette and Wellesley going over to Perth and other things going to Brand. I think it's something we need to talk about because I think there really is a business.
We have about a minute to go, and there was a business milestone set on Friday, the end of the Twinkie. Twinkie production.
I'm in the middle of writing a blog about that.
Hostess Brands has brought the Twinkie to an end. It is truly the end of an era.
Well, for Ian and I, we don't need any more Twinkies, but that's too bad.
And we should clear up. There is some, because of Hostess Frito-Lay shares the name. We have to be clear about this. They don't make Twinkies there, and they don't make Wonder Bread. Those was the two products that are ceasing production. So layoffs are not happening in Cambridge at Hostess Frito-Lay.
Yeah, interesting.
Everything comes to a close, and there'll be something new taking its place tomorrow.
You think so?
Absolutely.
The Twinkie? How do you replace the Twinkie?
I don't know. The girls will. We got the experts beside us here. They're the ones that will know what the next product is.
Right.
Anyways, I'm really looking forward to the next little while. We're very busy with the chamber, and encourage all listeners to go to our greaterkwchamber.com.
We'll leave it on that note, gentlemen. The time has flown by again. greaterkwchamber.com, cambridgechamber.com. Thanks to Ian McLean, Greg DeRocher, our producers, Catherine Drake, and Liz Russell. You are listening to 570 News.